Welcome back to the Real Impact Show. I am one of your hosts, Aaron Zapata.
And I am your other host, Don Jacks. Thanks for being here today to talk all things real estate, as always.
Absolutely. If you're an agent just tuning in here, thank you. Welcome back. We are always talking about different things that are going on in the real estate industry. We know that you have questions. We know that you have wins and woes, and we know that your questions can lead to a lower production at the end of the year because you hold back. And our goal in this whole show is to really help agents reach that next level of production, to get rid of that stinking thinking, and to push forward in their business to the top level of success. So, Dawn, tell us what we're going to talk about today. If you've read the top of the podcast episode or you're on YouTube, you already know what we're going to talk about. But Dawn, for those that have not read, that they're just listening to us, what are we talking about today?
So yeah, it's a topic we were just talking about. We've been at this for a while and stayed away from the topic of the changes, the new rules because of the NAR settlement. We've stayed away from them because we sit here on June 20th, still really unknown of what's going to be finalized, what we're going to be responsible for. But there's a few keys here that we talked about that probably will be happening regardless of the outcome that we really all should be prepared for and ready to jump on now, even though those changes haven't gone into effect yet.
Yeah. You know, there's a couple of different places where realtors like to show up. One is to a broker's open with great food in a really nice home. Another place realtors like to show up is in a networking training event, like a Tom Ferry event or a company wide sales rally, someplace where they
Sure.
can meet other realtors, right? The other place they show up is any kind of social event that has food and drinks.
Yes.
Fourth place where they show up is to training when they have no idea what they're doing. I was talking to my association today, and I said, "Hey, I've been at your offices the last couple of times, and it's pretty dead around there." And he said, "Were you here today?" I'm like, "No. Why?" He said, "Oh, it's packed today." I'm like, "What's going on?" "Oh, we got training." "Oh, what are you training on?" "Oh, the new buyer broker representation agreement. We're talking about the new purchase contract." And he said it was packed, and that every time they've offered a new class recently, that it's just been packed. So that tells me that this really is a hot topic because agents are kind of worried about what's going to happen to commissions, and am I going to do something that's illegal, unethical, or flat out dumb? And it's
How
going to
about
cause
this?
me
Is it
problems.
really going to be that big of a deal? Are there going to be that big of changes? Isn't it going to be business as usual? And this is just one of the biggest changes in the last 100 years of real estate. However, it's nothing to get too concerned about if you're prepared, if you're a professional, if you're adding value, and you take the time to plan before you absolutely need to put everything into place. And I
Right.
think that's what we're talking about. It's funny. I coach an association president and his team. And we've been talking about how more butts are in the seats every time buyer broker, buyer presentation, buyer objection handler, or going through these topics on what's shifting, what do we need to be ready for with the new rules every time there's more than before. So it is a hot topic. That's not why we're talking about it. We're talking about it because we want everybody to be prepared for this, regardless of what happens with the changes.
Well, and you and I, Don, are active selling realtors too. You know,
Mhm.
we're not just standing up at the front of a classroom instructing you as to what's going to happen. You know, we're dealing with this on a live basis. So, recently I went out on a buyer's agent, a buyer consultation with me and my buyers. I took my clients to Starbucks, and every agent who's working with buyers understands that this is the case. You have to walk your clients through what's going to happen. Now, sometimes you get lucky. You show up to show a property and they love it and you write the offer and it gets accepted. That's a rare occasion.
Mhm.
Most of the time, you're going to work with buyers. And so I took my buyers to Starbucks and allotted about an hour and a half of education time,
Sure.
walking them through what the lender's going to require, walking them through where their money's coming from, walking them through some of the hurdles. And the thing I had to add to this conversation, and I've never had to talk about this before, is how I get paid as a buyer's agent. And I had to tell them there's lawsuits that have been lost, there's decisions that have been made, and there's changes that are coming. And while I don't know how it's all going to pan out, we do know some basics. And so we thought in today's episode that Don and I would talk about what we know to be true on the buyer side, and then also what we know to be true on the seller side, and how to approach both of those given these new commission changes.
Yeah.
So, Don, before we finish off where I kind of just led into, let's talk about the seller side because I think it's the easier of the two conversations.
Okay. I appreciate that. I do want to say I'll wait when we get into the buyer broker agreement conversation. From the seller side, man, we have to prep our sellers. I think the best conversation I've heard on this is we're going to the same destination. We're just going to get there a little differently, right, Mr. Seller? The 5, the 6, the 12%, the 4%, whatever we each decide to charge, that percentage still is valid today to attract a real estate agent that has a great buyer that can pay the price you're looking for and get across the finish line at the closing table.
Mhm.
I don't think that one thing is changing because of any of these new rules. We as agents have to be able to deliver that conversation and add that value better than we do now, probably in most cases.
Yeah.
I mean, you deal with this. You're in kitchens and living rooms having these conversations more often than I am. Are you hearing anything from the sellers right now about this new change or changes or the
Yeah.
lawsuit or
Yeah.
anything like that at all?
Yeah. And the thing I hear most often is I understand there's lawsuits and that I don't have to pay a commission anymore to the buyer side. And if anybody's done research, that's kind of what they glean from the headlines. And while they don't have to pay a commission anymore, may be true, the actual truth is that they've never had to pay a
That's
buyer's
right.
agent commission.
That's right.
And so, yeah, we have scripts that deal with that, but it starts before that because I have a duty to just ask them as a professional, hey, what have you heard?
The first thing that should be coming out of your mouth before you deliver any advice or ideas one way or another, right?
Yeah, what have you heard? And it's a very good qualifying question that we have to ask our sellers because some are completely unaware of the fact that there's been any lawsuits. Some people don't care that there have been lawsuits, and others are fully aware and care and still know that paying a commission to a buyer side agent is a beneficial choice for them. So the reason you ask that question is to kind of gauge your seller's knowledge and then to go in the right direction that's going to really give them the counsel they need to give them the best and highest sales price at the end of the day. Um,
Absolutely.
I've been on uh, two listing presentations this week. I've got one more this evening, and that's how I start. What have you heard? Oh, um, I heard it's not going to have to pay it. Okay, so let's talk about that. And I've heard others that say, oh, well, we're just going to keep paying it. So here's what Don and I were talking about before we hit record. Unless there is a rule or a law that says a seller can absolutely not pay any fees on behalf of the buyer, AKA a buyer's agent commission, unless there's a law, then our job is to simply ask what they're aware of, and then give them the best advice based on what they're aware of and what's going to get them the highest price and net them the most at the end of the day. That's why they hire us.
That's right.
I don't know any seller that I've ever talked to in nearly 30 years that has said to me, Aaron, I want you to get a lower price and I want you to make more money and I want to make less. No,
And
no,
take longer in the process,
take
please.
longer in the
Yeah, yeah.
process and really make things difficult for me. No, they want the highest price in the shortest amount of time that puts the most money in their pocket.
So not to go off on a tangent, but if there's a law stating that, aren't we going to be dealing with more First Amendment rights issues than anything else? I finally heard somebody else say that today. That's what I've been saying. That can't become a law, but who knows? We're in the upside down with this right now.
We are in the
It
upside down
could go
world.
either, yes. So anything's possible. Until that happens, though, it's business as usual,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
It's business as usual.
And
Um,
every single one of my sellers this year that I've talked to and continue to talk to has agreed that it is in their best interest to pay a commission.
okay, so it's not the NAR settlement, it's not the lawsuit. If you're listening, if you're watching, please look deep into my eyes. It's you role playing and being prepared for the conversation at hand. That's
Yeah.
what this comes down to. It's not the dollars and cents. It's not the commission. We work our faces off. We do great service. You tirelessly serve your clients. It's okay to get paid for those services.
Mhm.
We do good for our sellers. We just have to convey that value. I think that's the most important part about all of this, especially with the sellers.
Yep.
Especially with the sellers. I don't want to go on and on. You have the scripts, the dialogues are out there, the presentations are out there. Your brokers have direction, hopefully, for you. Use that and with confidence deliver the presentation to go help your seller reach their goals. It's not about what we get paid, it's how much they net at the end of the day and how soon can they get it done. And are you going to get it done or are you going to screw it up?
Yeah.
That's all they want to know for us. So I think that doesn't change. That doesn't change.
Yeah.
Anything else to add on the seller side? Because I want to get into the buyer side.
No, I think you said it great. You just got to get it done.
Yeah,
And,
you
and
really
and
do.
and as we transition to the buyer side, that same principle is so true. If you are paralyzed by fear, you will be out of this business.
This will do it. If it hasn't happened already, this will do it if you get paralyzed by fear. That's
I'm so
absolutely
afraid of
right.
making a mistake. I'm so afraid of getting in trouble. I'm so afraid of, you know, the ethics that we go through, the laws that we watch and learn and take tests on. Always say, are you putting the interest of your clients at the highest and best above your own? Are you taking that fiduciary duty? If you are, then stop worrying about
That's
getting in
right.
trouble.
That's right. It's what it all comes down to.
Yeah. And you have to just keep going forward.
Yeah. Could you imagine, by the way, just for you and all the realtors, we always talk about more education for our realtors would raise the bar. Like I think Texas has different licensing requirements than we do here in California. You've taken the loan officer classes, and you know all the fraud and all the legalities they have to go
Mhm.
through every year. I've taken that.
Mhm.
Every single year. Could you imagine what it would do to our industry if the realtors had to do the same thing? I mean,
Yeah.
a quarter of them would leave
Right.
just because there would be more education required, but it would
Yep.
level up and all these silly conversations would go away.
Yeah.
Yeah,
So
it would
props
be
to
great.
Texas. I think they have the best standards in the nation for keeping their agents at
Don't
the
they
top of their
all
game.
have to be GRIs or the equivalent of a
Basically,
GRI?
equivalent.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, that's
Yeah.
pretty
All within the
amazing.
first like 12 months, they have to take a bunch of classes or 18 months, a bunch
Yeah,
of classes or their license is revoked. You
yeah.
know, it's great.
Somebody in Texas, tell us where we're wrong there, but
Yeah.
it's something like that. It's fantastic.
Well, our standards are low and double. That's maybe what we're
Welcome to
doing.
California. Yes.
All
All
right, buy
right.
side, buyers,
Okay.
agents,
I
we're
want
talking
to
about it.
lead with this. Hold on. I have to lead with this, and you take this one on. Aaron and I have worked in the real estate business in Southern California. I've been licensed now 25, 26 years, been around for 30 years. Aaron, not too far off those numbers at all, maybe by a few months or a year. Um, I believe I signed one buyer broker agreement about 25 years ago. I just signed number two earlier this year, which was amazing. And I believe Aaron just signed his second, third, fourth, fifth, something like that.
I think it's
We
my
have no,
second,
say it again.
second one.
Second one, we're right on pace. Um, we've always been able to sell real estate in California without it. Looking at where this is going now, this contract makes sense. It's something we all probably should have been using. 4 years, we've all done it with a handshake and getting to the contract. Now it's going to need to be different. That's probably a good thing. It once again levels all of us up, levels the industry up for the client's sake, and it takes out any ambiguity that may have been there when we do this correctly, right? With a proper buyer presentation, with a proper education of the buyer, with a proper understanding and conveyance of the buyer broker agreement, it's better for everybody involved, especially the client. With all of that said, we have some thoughts on this and how we take this forward in our business. Go for it, Aaron. I,
So
I just wanted everybody to
yeah,
know I did not want to not say that. I think
yeah,
that's important. We're in this together.
we are just yeah, and we're gonna figure it out. We're gonna figure it out. I posted this on our real workplace that those agents that embrace this change and learn how to pivot and how to roll with it, man, you guys are golden. We're gonna pick up the scraps that others leave behind. And I for one, with these changes, am excited about what that means for the industry overall, in that it's going to clear out the competition. Why? Because I play it like the Survivor TV show. I'm going to outwit, outlast, and outsurvive. Right? I'm going to just stay on the island long enough to
That's
win
right.
the award. And
That's
so,
right.
so when we're talking with buyers, and I'll go back to this consultation I had with my buyers for the first time ever. Separate and apart from a buyer's broker agent agreement, I had to have the conversation about how I get paid and what I get paid. And that has never been a part of this conversation. So I embraced the uncomfortable and I just went with it. And I made it very simple. And if you can do anything as an agent, simplify everything, break it down to the lowest common denominator. And I simply said, I get paid anywhere from 2 to 2.5% as a buyer's agent when I represent the buyer in our area. And that is the going rate. It's not a lie. I'm not making it up. I'm not taking a discount. That's the going rate. I have not seen a 3% offering in a super long time. And I said, I get paid 2 to 2.5%. And here's what's going to happen. We're going to start to see offers, the MLS multiple listing service, where a $0 compensation is being offered and a zero cost credit is being offered to pay my fee. And that means you're either going to have to come up with an additional $15,000 to $25,000, depending on the price of your purchase, or we're going to take those off the list. And I'm going to give you the option at each time. Does that sound fair? They said, yeah, sounds great. And we moved on. And I was tempted to overcomplicate the commission lawsuit. Well, this is the way it used to be. This is the way it is now. This is the way it's supposed to be. Blah,
They
blah,
don't
blah,
care.
blah, blah.
Yeah.
They don't care. They don't
No.
care. It reminds me of a seller who's majorly renovated their house recently. And you go in there and you're like, well, let me look at the house. And like, well, there used to be a wall here. That wall used to be pink. And this used to be shag carpet. You
We
should
tore
have
out the wet bar over
yeah, we
there.
tore out the
Yes.
wet bar over there and we remodeled the kitchen 18 years ago, but then we updated it again 3 years ago. And oh, that pool that had the wrong color in it. So we changed it out. And you go through and this is the showing appointment. And buyers don't care what it used to look like. They only care what it is now. So same thing with your buyers now as you're in this conversation. What does it mean to me today as the buyer? Can you answer that question for them in 10 words or less? You may have to pay me directly or not. 9 words.
Right. Your closing costs may have gone up a bit,
There you go. Right?
right?
Yeah.
That might be it. And I think it's real important not only to keep simple, and I wrote down something Sharon says all the time. I might butcher it, so Sharon, I'm sorry. Present the complexity, deliver the simplicity. Right? It's not an easy process. There's a lot of steps to it, but it is pretty simple. So this is what we're going to do. And you said the transaction or the transition. Here's what happens next. this is what to expect next. And as long as we're delivering the big picture, okay, so what we need to do this week is, as long as we're breaking it down with that communication, it stays easy for the buyer to understand and execute against.
Yeah.
And I love that. I
Yeah.
love that. It makes a lot of sense to me.
And I think in
Um,
fairness, it's okay to say that there are going to be some unknown circumstances. We're going to
yes.
come across things that we've never dealt before. And I am learning as your agent what these things mean. And you, unfortunately, are going to be learning with me because nobody knows exactly what's happening. And are you okay with that? Yeah, we're okay with that. Just being honest. I don't
Yeah.
know what it means. I saw an MLS coming soon. Buyer's agent compensation, 2%. Seller's closing cost concession, 2%. Two different areas, two different meanings, or are they? So can
And
I
I
still,
get paid 4% on this deal.
yeah, right? Can they pay me
Interesting.
2% of the commission and then also compensate the buyer 2% of their closing costs and then get paid on the buyer side?
Who has the answer to that question?
The listing agent.
That's right. That's right.
But again, right? First time seeing it
Yes.
this week,
That's funny.
confusion.
Yeah. Instant confusion. So there's going to be some of that. So we need to, as always, set the client's expectations up properly in the beginning. It's
Yeah,
a bit of a mess right now. This is what we know. This is what we don't know. I'll communicate as we go along. Sound good to me? Sound good to you? I think that's super important. And what we share with all of our agents here, Aaron, is we don't leave that conversation ever with, well, here's what you can expect next. Here's what's going to happen next.
right.
Let's do this next.
Yeah,
And I think it sets everybody at ease when that's the case. You mentioned you didn't overcomplicate it. I had the same experience on my latest buyer broker agreement, going through the process, going through the conversation, walking through who gets paid, how we get paid, and then this is this is we're learning together. We got to the end of it, and Dan, who we just closed escrow, it all worked out. He said, "So you're going to send us the contract?"
yeah, right.
Oh yeah, I'm going to send you the. That was my answer. It was horrible,
Yeah,
horrible first buyer broker. Oh, but we had such great rapport, and the presentation was awesome, and the close is a natural end to a great presentation.
yeah,
It was. Oh, so you're just going to send that to us? Yeah,
yeah,
I guess I will.
yeah,
And he sent it right back, and we found a house, and it worked out. We've again got to know how to add value. They don't really care about us, about us getting paid, about how we get paid,
right.
as long as it's understandable and we can afford it and we can play by the rules because we know the rules. And let's go on because I want to buy a house and we're having a baby in August. So we need to get set up before that. That's what really matters. And
Yeah,
unfortunately, this whole conversation, and we keep saying this, puts us right in the middle and our
yeah,
commission in the middle.
yeah,
We've got to explain it and get us out of the middle and get back to what's really important with the clients,
yeah,
right?
yeah. And like you said, they don't really care. And
You know,
part of that is that they've never known to ask any questions otherwise. They never know how agents get paid
that's
because we
true.
never talked about it. And I've made the assumption for years that agents know how that buyers and sellers all know how we get paid. And you've all been out there on showing appointments, and then that buyer calls you and said they went into escrow with somebody else. And I don't know if they've been honest with you. I had a set of clients, and they said, "Oh yeah, well we wrote the offer with them. We figured that when we close a deal, you still all get paid." They had no clue
No clue.
that I was just cut completely from the deal. Their fault or mine? Mine.
100%.
Mine.
100% yours. Yeah. And why would they? We don't know how they get paid.
Right.
We have no idea.
Unless we ask.
Why would
And
we?
and now this conversation's up. So we have to come into the conversation very humbly and very matter of fact. Laws are
100%.
changing. Either you're going to pay me or the seller's going to pay me. We don't know how it's going to work depending on the deal.
Yeah.
Fair?
Fair.
Okay.
Two things. One, this type of conversation is going to eliminate people from the business.
Yeah.
It's going to level up the competition. And number two, practice, role play, get
Yeah.
really, 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 really good, become the best possible version of somebody who cares about the client and giving the education to them away up front
Yeah.
so you can serve them best in the long run. I think that's what this is all coming down to again. Nothing new other than it might take a few more minutes to get to our destination. We have a
Yeah.
different route to take to get there. I think that's what we really need to remember. And huh,
Yeah.
all of this doesn't matter until we know what the client's up to, what's important to them, and that we can actually help them.
Yeah.
So we always go back to that, Aaron.
Yeah.
I think that's really important because we can get caught up in the minutia. And all of this sounds really good, but nothing's even happened yet. So
Yeah.
don't get caught up in this. Do what you can do and add value to the client situation wherever possible.
And here's a tip. Write it down when you're having your consultation. I use a notability app on my iPad, and with my iPencil, I draw pictures and I write things down, and I like, these are the next steps, and here's where we're at, and these are some of the things that to consider, and don't do these things, do these things, and I just keep writing, and I can convert that into a PDF and I email it to them at the end of our appointment. Hey, here's the notes I took from our conversation today. Please keep these as a reference tool, because your job now as the agent in a changing world is to tell them it's changing. As it's changing, let them know it's changing. Once it's changed, or once something has changed, let them know that it changed. And you have to keep going back and referencing and reminding and bringing it up again,
Yeah. Yeah.
because you've never said it enough. You know, hey, I told you 6 weeks ago when we started looking at these homes that this was the process. Okay, you probably should have had a follow up conversation,
Or five.
or five,
Yeah.
or 18, or
That's right.
every time you look in the MLS and you say, hey, remember we talked about these options? Here's a home, 0%. You know, do you guys want to go see it or not? Why are we talking about this? Well, remember, I wrote those notes down. We talked about, oh, yeah, 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 yeah. Okay.
You know what, Aaron? I'm hearing you say this, and it's making me think. We spend so much time talking about lead generation, whether it's prospecting or marketing or paid lead gen or whatever it is, capturing the lead. And I'm hearing you mock this conversation. We spend so much time and money for these leads, and then we screw up the presentation with horrible presentation skills, winging it, not understanding the new rules and what's real and what's not being able to articulate that to the clients to help them make an informed decision in the midst of the chaos, in the midst of their life. And we just we throw it away with what you're talking about here. If you can hear this, if you're watching this, please, for the love of God, get better, do better as an industry. We all need to level up for our
And you know
clients'
what?
sake.
And you know what? If you don't, guess who's going to close those deals? Don and myself.
The
Because,
agents that are willing to do what it takes and continue to get better. I
yeah,
mean, 30 years, my legs are hurt, my butt hurts, continue stepping up, but that's what's continually necessary in this changing market, this skill-based market, Aaron,
yeah,
right? It's not here, put a sign up, sell a house, the next one's right around the corner. That's
right,
that's not the market we're in
right.
right now. These
Yeah,
skills are so important.
yeah. Learn those skills. I get referrals from family members of buyers, not my family members. That's to be like, that's like, mom and dad, thank you for sending me referrals, right? That's a given. These are family members of other buyers who are frustrated with their buying process. And they say, you know, your agent said that? Really? You need to talk to somebody else. And guess what? My name gets slipped over there, and I get a phone call, or I get a call saying, hey, you need to call my nephew. You need to call my sister. You need to call my children. Uh, I don't know that they're getting the right advice. And so if you're not taking the time to update yourself and to build these skills, your clients, when they ghost you, it's because they've been given to somebody else.
They're
They don't
calling
focus on
somebody else
that.
who's doing
Yeah.
the job. That's absolutely right.
Yeah.
That's how the last buyers came to me too. They were working with somebody
Right.
else and not getting the information,
Yeah.
I'm important,
Yeah.
it doesn't take much though. It doesn't take much in this market. It sounds like it's so much, Aaron, and it's a lot. We got to work our face off, got to do the work, but it doesn't take a lot to stand out over the norm or over the average agent today.
And it
Just
doesn't take
call,
much.
not at all.
It doesn't take much at all to stand out. I just
No.
closed on a deal with a young couple, and they had already been in escrow with another agent. And it was the home inspection came back with a foundation crack, and it was like terrible. And their agent was like, "Don't worry about it. It's all going to be fine. You're going to love it. It's all good." And they're like, "It's not all good." And they came referred to me by a family member. And I called them up. I said, "Here's what's next. Here's the process." And they said, "Great. We're going to go to an open house on Sunday. And, we'll call you and see if we like it." I'm like, "I'm out of town. I can't even go. So have fun. Let them know you have an agent. And then give me the agent's name and number and the address if you like it. I'm going to follow up and I'm going to do my due diligence." And they went and they loved it and they fell in love with it. We wrote the offer, got it accepted. I didn't see it until the home inspection. And I didn't see it a second time until I gave them the keys at the front door.
That's fantastic.
Right. Because, and then I just got a 5-star review. What did I do differently? Not a lot. Okay. Not a lot. Here's what's next.
Communicate,
Here's the
communicate.
process. Here's how we're going to handle this. Come alongside them. And now we add this whole commission conversation on. It's just a cherry on top.
Let me ask you, how long, I know how long I talked about how we get paid in the who gets paid. How long of a time did you spend in that subject?
Too long. I spent
Too
about
long.
5 minutes. I should have spent like
Okay.
4 or 3.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's about a 30 to 90-second conversation, it
Yeah.
seems like. It doesn't need to be long and drawn out. That's what's interesting about that. If they have questions, answer the questions.
Yeah.
Don't dodge it. That's not what I'm saying at all.
Right.
But it's pretty straightforward when we explain it properly.
Well, and when I was explaining the down payment, say, "Hey, you're buying a $700,000 house. You want to put 20% down. That's 140,000. How much do you have?" "Oh, we have 200,000, so we could put more down." I said, "Okay, great. Now we're going to do 1% for closing costs. Okay, that's 2 grand. That's 7 grand. We're going to do 1%
Escrow type,
for, other things,
transfer fees. Yep.
transfer fees." And I says, "And now we've got, your lender fees, and now we have a 2 to 2.5% commission." And so they're like, "Oh, I guess we're only putting 20% down because, there was quite a bit of fees in there." I says, "That might be a good option." And they're like, "Okay, all right, 20% down. Let's move on." Uh,
Well, that's beautiful though. There's the opportunity to say, and we will do our best to get the seller to negotiate some of these down. Then you'll have more money for move-in costs or to put towards your down payment.
exactly right.
Yeah,
Exactly
yeah,
right.
that's beautiful.
And if you
It's
have a buyer that's paying all cash, they clearly can afford the commission, and that should be even a smaller conversation.
absolutely, absolutely. And then you can negotiate how you're going to present the offer to make the best possible presentation to the seller, right?
Mhm.
If it behooves you not to ask and you can afford it, Mr. Buyer, let's do that. That makes sense. There's 5 other offers on the table right now. That might be the deciding factor.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think that's good, Aaron. Um, one last, just a note before we get out of here. We haven't talked about the unrepresented buyer,
Mm,
right? We were talking about
yeah.
before we got on here, the unrepresented buyer, and we can have a whole conversation about this. The buyer coming to you as the listing agent saying, I'd like an offer on the property. I don't have an agent. I'm not going to pay you. Will you represent me? Or any derivative of that. How are you planning on handling that if and when you only have a 3% listing agreement signed someday?
I greatly appreciate you asking me. My fee for that is 2%. So if we go ahead and sign a buyer broker agreement, I'd be happy to write the contract for you, and let's go for it. Because if I'm not going to get paid to represent them, I don't want to double my liability. It's
Mhm.
not double the work, but I don't want to double my liability and,
It's
have,
1.45 times the work.
yeah, right. It's
Yeah.
more, but it's not
Yeah.
double.
Yeah.
And I don't want to blur the line between who's paying me for what. And so if you want me to represent your interests, then my fee for that's 2%.
Love that. I love that. What about the seller that says, well, just write the offer? I mean, I'm paying you 3%, Aaron. We don't have any other offers. It's been 3 weeks. Just write the offer.
If you would like to pay me the 2%, then I'm going to charge them to write the offer. I'd be happy to do that. And we could talk about that.
Beautiful. Beautiful.
Yeah.
I would add
You would
one
have-
thing to it.
Yeah. Go ahead.
One thing, and we
Teach
have
me.
this in our presentation.
Teach me.
If you, no, it's not that. It's just you have this is what we do for our buyers. This is the work that we provide for the buyers.
Yeah.
Mr. Buyer, if you can do all of this on your own, can you? No. Well, then you're going to need to hire us, or we're going to need to write a higher enough offer to ask for the seller to pay for those costs, because these happen by somebody on your behalf at some time. This is a job for all of us, and we all get paid to perform the best service possible for you.
Right.
So I think it's real important to, yes, charge, but yes, show why and the proof over just the promise of getting it done, right?
Yeah.
Another Sharonism. We've got to be able to show that work that we do. Just saying this when CNN and President Biden and every other news organization is saying that the 6% commission's gone, we don't have to pay agents anything anymore. We have to be able to prove beyond a shadow of a doubt why we're the value that we say we are. That's all.
That's great. That's great. That's great advice, Don. I mean, you either think you have value or you don't.
Yeah.
And
Well,
your checks will quantify that.
yeah, yeah.
Right.
Conveying that value, I think, is the tough part for a lot of us, right? Being able to do that, and I think lining up with what that is in advance. Now, if you don't have something like that, work on that. You got to be able to present something that proves the value that they are paying for. You want them to pay for. I think
Right.
that's important. We
And I
we
and
can't
I
demand it.
and I said this in this conversation too. I said, look, you're not paying me to open doors. I'm not just a door opener.
That's right.
I'll meet you at the house, open the door, let you see it. That is only a very, very tiny part of what I do. And I explained all the other things that a buyer's agent does, from building rapport to drafting the offer to making sure that that offer is the offer that gets accepted if there's a multiple offer situation. Just going through that process and explaining in detail some of the differences that hiring someone like me compared to just hiring a listing agent or hiring another firm. This is what I do. And this is the work that I get paid for, not for the door opening. I want to help you get that home. So
That's right.
we have to know how to deliver on our services, and we have to know how to illustrate them, how to explain them, and then how to convey those things so that by the end of that buyer broker meeting, they're like Don's client said, you're sending me the contract, right? We want to get started. Let's go. Like,
That's right.
we're in a hurry. You should have brought that contract with me. You're right. That kind of thing. So be prepared.
Yeah,
Yeah.
be prepared. I think that if we wrap this up, and I'm looking at the clock, it is time.
To
Be
wrap it up.
prepared, practice, role play, have your presentation down pat, whether it's yours or your company's or ours or somebody's, have it down so you can convey convey the balance, convey the value properly to be able to help your clients. And without that, and these whatever the changes end up being, without that, I think the agents are going to go the way of the dodo bird and will do less than the average 2 to 4 deals a year. And I'm a capitalist. I think that's how it goes, right? You either keep up or you get out, and that's okay.
Yeah,
But those that want to be professionals or are professionals will continue to figure this out and adapt with the changing rules.
that's
The
right.
more we talk about it, the more I'm looking forward to them, actually. Let's just get to them. let's just figure that part out now. Now it's go time.
Yeah. Yeah. And until we know for sure, let people know you're talking in hypotheticals because
Hypotheticals. As
yeah,
of right now, it's business as usual. Let's
as
be
of right
clear.
now, and it's going to change. And until it needs to change, I will let you know.
Absolutely.
Let's go
With
look at
that,
homes, people.
let's go look at homes. Let's go sell some homes. Let's go role play and practice so we're delivering the best possible advice to our clients. Have happy selling. Go serve some clients. And until next time, be great, everybody. We'll talk to you soon.
You've been listening to the Real Impact Show, and for kicks and giggles, we'd love you to head over to our Instagram accounts at Coach Don Jacks and at Aaron Zapata. Give us a like and subscribe and follow, and comment below on this video and let us know how it's helped you. If you like it, let us know. If you disagree, or you've got a better opinion, we also want to hear that because we do read those comments and we can incorporate them into future shows. Thanks for listening along. This has been the Real Impact Show. Go make an impact in your world.
Take care, everybody.